DVB, Digital Fast.
Hello and welcome to the DVB Newsroom. I'm Nora. Joining me today is Trish, a Michelin-trained chef, activist, and founder of Bamama Cooks. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
First off, can you explain why you have adopted the name Bamama? What does it mean to you?
Long story short, it was a name given by a friend of mine who has now become our in-house designer. It's a little slang that we use, an insider joke, as to describe a Burmese girl that they're like sassy and feisty, and yeah, so we want to personalize that in our branding as like it's not just me who's Bamama, but like representing all of our Burmese women out there.
I read that you were studying marketing before you switched to culinary arts. Why did you want to become a chef?
Quite frankly speaking, it's because I failed university and I did 3 years of marketing in Thailand at a university. And then I come from an Asian, very conservative background. And then they weren't so happy about me quitting or dropping out of college. So I realized that like, okay, I just got to pick up something to make them feel proud-ish. And one thing leads to another. I went to a culinary school here in Bangkok. And then afterwards, I didn't realize that being a chef has taught me a lot of patience and focus. It's something that I lacked in my life before.
Prior to the 2021 military coup, you were living and working at a restaurant in Thailand. Why did you return to Myanmar?
Simply immigration and visa complications. So back in the days, there hasn't a lot of middle-class Burmese from Myanmar working in Thailand. It's always about like a blue-collar migrant worker. So in terms of immigration laws, right, I was staying with pretty much like student visa and like so many different types of visa for the duration of 10 years that I was working here. So it became a little bit difficult both for me and also the restaurant owners at that time. And then they were realizing that like this is such a complicated process. So I ended up just going back home and settling down back home. That was the intention, which didn't happen.
During the anti-coup street protest, you were one of many who cooked for and fed the protesters. What did it mean to you to do this?
I didn't want to have a kitchen that was just profiting off from whoever my customers is. And as a restaurant owner, you don't really know who your customers and their background yet. And then at that time, it's a really crazy frenzy. So I just closed down my restaurant and then turned it into a charitable kitchen. So we just cook with the help of my friend, who is also an owner of another restaurant. And like she's got an empty kitchen, I got an empty kitchen. And at that time, that felt like the most reasonable things to do. So I just ended up just cooking for the protesters specifically,
Did you have any personal memories from those early protest days that stayed with you?
It was quite emotional, but also at the same time, it made me more riled up. And I was brought up in a generation, especially for me as a third culture kid, I never grew up in the proper Burmese environment. I've always felt out of touch with my community. When I went to the protest sites and then started talking to people and then started hanging out with them and hear their stories, it made me feel a little bit closer to my community, but also on top, it made me closer to my family. And whatever that their generation went through, I guess I could like sympathize a little bit. And also that is kind of like a push for me to like, hey, this cannot happen. I think this is what a lot of our generation feels, that this cannot like be a repeat.
Weren't you scared you'd be arrested or even face even worse consequences?
I think I was only scared that one particular time that I was caught in a crossfire. We are based in an area that my district is a little bit, everyone knows each other. I grew up in a neighborhood. So when my friends are out protesting, I think like with the boys and they're like, they know what the exit strategies are and they know their routes, except me, who like it's a little bit silly thinking back, but yeah, I got caught in a crossfire. And then as they were approaching, is like, smoke bombs and everything else. And then I've never experienced that in my life. At that point, I don't think being scared is an option. I think it's all about just like, oh, survive, survive, survive. I can't get caught.
You moved back to Thailand 4 years ago and have been quite active in Chiang Mai since then. Tell me the origin story of Bamama Cooks.
When I first arrived to Thailand after the coup, just like everyone else, you're really traumatized and then you have a lot of like mental issues that you're going through. So as a chef, I literally stopped cooking for 2 years. But then that's the only thing that I know how to do in my life well. So I actually ended up posting these like videos about cooking. And then I think that's in a way of like for me to heal. And also another way for me to get back into my professional cooking. And also the most benefit I got out of it is actually being closer to my mom. And I would just like call up to her and be like, hey, so what's this recipe? Am I doing it right? And then I thought that was such a healing process for me that I did for 2 years. And then slowly I moved to Chiang Mai when I feel a lot more comfortable and a bit more confident with myself to start up Bamama Cooks Chef's Table. And yeah, one thing leads to another.
I heard you recently opened And Then We Drink. Could you tell me more about what it is?
It's a wine bar. It's a it's a drinking place. My partners came to my chef's table and then they wanted to open up a restaurant with me. As a Burmese, like that's an opportunity for me to expand my culinary and also specifically to hire more Burmese migrants. So I started to explore a little bit more about the market research on like Thai consumerism and then see how like they react to Burmese food. And Burmese food just in general, even though there's a lot of migrant workers, the cuisine itself hasn't gained enough popularity. And that goes to so many factors and not just on stereotypes, but also on aspects of employment and then legality. So going through like different challenges has been implemented in like owning a restaurant on my own or like one of the owners. But I guess yeah, we're getting there. We're still very young, like 10 months old. It's interesting to see how as a business owner the different challenges that we have to kind of navigate through, and also bridging that two different cultures together as like the Thai working culture versus Burmese working culture, because we do also have Thai employees as well. And then learning how to all like work together. It's quite challenging.
In the last few years, Chiang Mai, Bangkok, and Mae Sot have all had several new Myanmar restaurants. How do you feel about this?
I'm quite happy about it, and I'm so like it's amazing that people are finding resilience in food, and it's a way that to also continue our heritage in a way to like okay, but also like food is in a way that is the most easiest for people who are not in humanitarian sector or people like at the end of the day everyone's got to eat. Right. So I think it's amazing that a lot of the Burmese restaurants are happening both in Bangkok and Chiang Mai. But I think I worry a little bit about like certain things in terms of that is because of legality, for example, or like people getting minimum wage, for example, and then like, but it's like it's nothing of the like like being criticizing about like any restaurants, but also this is about like Thai labor laws, and this is about like immigration laws, and then how we can navigate through that a little bit more.
Do you think Burmese cuisine deserves more international recognition?
Absolutely, yes. The world has slept on Burmese food, and I think a lot of people hasn't realized is that Burmese food is not just about Pama food. Pama food predominantly Pama tribe, right? There's Kachin, Kayin, Shan, and then with my chef's table, that was the intention. Whenever I do chef's table or like pop-ups, I made sure that Burmese food involves so many different ethnicities. And then that's key and vital too, because in Thailand, everyone knows that like Thai customers are the hardest to please. And as a way of like building that kind of food diplomacy and then make like feeding them like familiar food, it's important to recognize like the food that shares commonalities and similarities.
I've read that your mission is to decolonize Burmese cuisine. What does this mean in practice?
Let's take mohinga for instance. There's so many different types of mohinga in Burma, and I think we have, as a Burmese person, right? We always have this concept of like, I make the best mohinga. And I'm like, no, each different regions make different types of mohinga. And there's a reason for it, is because of the availability of fish, the lack of fish. And that goes to saying with, for example, spices. In terms of in the north, why Kachin people eat more spices and more herbaceous stuff is because of the weather itself that requires them to stay warm, and the lack of like technology resources, and they resort to foraging and like being a little bit closer and grounded to the nature because of the geographic situation. Whereas in the mid region, like Yangon or Bago area, right? Like why we don't have a lot of spices is because it's so hot. And then like trying to understand all of these aspects is like super important than like trying to have a domineering opinion on it.
Since the March 28th earthquake, you've been involved in several fundraising events. Why is this important to you?
The heart of like what I do as Bamama is a food initiative. I have a platform that has a certain level of reach and audience out there, right? And because predominantly my audience is targeted to the international crowd, and I think in a way that can use as a platform or a way to talk about the Myanmar situation. And specifically about like when it comes to earthquake, right? Like it's not just about a casual earthquake, that there's so many layers to it. There's so many conflicts behind it. Some of the fundings and the money that if you go through very established channels might not get delivered to the critically hit area like Sagaing, for example. So I think it's important that we talk about it. I think it's important. And I think such a weird thing is that an earthquake has exposed again about the military atrocities again. So in Thailand, like when I was doing the gala, right, a lot of people approach me and talk to me about it, but they have no idea how complicated the issue is. And like even the organization that we donated to Medical Myanmar, which are a group of like doctors, but they also work with like medical social workers back in Myanmar on the grounds. And the conflicts that they go through are like incredibly inspiring, but also at the same time super risky. And even as a Burmese, I feel a little bit out of touch that I don't know any of the experiences and the risks that they're taking. And I think it's important that because when we do gala events like that, when we're exposing about the junta into a little bit more privileged target. They start to understand about, even if just a little bit, like 2% of in their head that goes like, oh, like, Myanmar, da 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 happened. And therefore, instead of spending like a certain amount of dinner on something else that they can just splurge on, they're spending it on a good cause, first of all. Right. So that, like, in a way that I want to continue doing events such as this. And I would, lean in more towards like not just bringing or raising awareness. At the end of the day, my goal is to raise money. And surprisingly, I like to believe that I'm like pretty good at it. And that's only because I have the privilege to know all of the organizers who have reached out to me to do events like this on an aspects of food side.
So your recent fundraiser in Bangkok raised nearly 2 million Thai baht.
1.9 million baht.
Yeah. So how were you able to do this?
So there were 24 chefs, and they're all Michelin-starred chefs. And I feel really honored and privileged to be representing that all the way from Chiang Mai as a Burmese. But it also is like quite natural for them to recruit me as part of that. If you go eat at one Michelin star restaurant, it will cost you about 10,000 baht, easy, minimum. But then when you put all the 24 chefs together, and then you're paying a little bit less, but not to that point, and also meeting and networking with a lot of like F&B industry. So we use that as a way to like bring in people, bring in more donations. And then having chefs community, like we always, like, I think this is something that not many people know about it, that like F&B industry is all about giving and like being like super selfless. So all of the chefs who participated in that event, and that includes the wine and beverages as well, we give both our time and like everything, like no charges on our labor. And this is something that I want to highlight a little bit more with a lot of fundraisers that I've done, is that there's overhead costs. So not many people realize is that even if you raise sometimes like certain amount, and from that total amount, it gets cut to certain percentage to pay off like the labor costs, the people like, arranging the events, the volunteers. So these expenses, now we are removing that. And as an initiative, or being part of that initiative, we are able to remove that. And we are able to donate like 100% of 1.9 million baht to the relief.
How do you ensure that aid, whether food or funds, reach people who need it most?
We keep a pretty close tab with the organization that we work with. First of all, Medical Action Myanmar, like, please support them. They're doing incredible work. And they give us like exact numbers of where the supplies and where the money's going. They have a complete data of where the supplies are going. So at every event, the doctor would come in and do a huge PowerPoint a slideshow for the customers and the clients to see where the money has been delegated. So I think, you can see like on social media if you check and go through it. And so that for me and the people that I work with, transparency is incredibly like important for me. As for me, as well as a business person, like everything is about numbers. And then it's super important that what I work hard for, and you're taking others people's money as well, and their hard-earned money. So it's super important for me to build that transparency. And then what happens with transparency is that we build trust. And with that saying that, like, we want to support medical action, like organization like Medical Action Myanmar, that shows that kind of transparency.
Yeah. I've also read that preserving traditional Burmese fermentation and ethnic food heritage is so important to you? Why is that?
I'm a nerd by heart. Since 10 years ago, when I started working at that Michelin place, I was that nerdy little kid who just like loves reading about fermentation. So when Noma fermentation book came out, that's kind of like a Bible for chefs. Yeah, like I fell in love with fermentation. And I think looking back and then after studying about it for quite a long time, I realized that like, hey, actually, Burmese people eat fermented foods on a daily basis, like things like ngapi and things like lapet, right? And then to understand how these, well, first of all, like Burmese fermentation is quite advanced. It's just the world hasn't gotten to know about it yet, right? And second of all, there are reasons to why Burmese people have to resort to eating fermented foods, and it is all tied into like political and like social economics background as well. So it was just like quite interesting. And I mean, I didn't go back home to do specifically that, but then there's so many information that's been exposed surrounding that now, and yeah, it's just interesting knowledge.
What's the one dish that for you represents home?
That's hard. That's a hard question. Represent home would be like mohinga. Yeah, definitely mohinga. And you can see the evolution of mohinga now. You can see also like it connects to a lot of different industry when it comes to mohinga, like the fishery industry, for example. So mohinga is specifically based using 100% fish sauce and 100% catfish, right? I have been talking to a few fisheries before I left, which was 4 years ago. And then they were talking about not being able to make enough fish sauce because they weren't able to catch enough anchovies in time. So that creates like a lot of, I don't know, like I do feel that with global warming and everything else, like these are like the realistic changing dynamics of the food culture. And now even worse with the war is the food insecurities. And at one point, we might not be eating rice anymore. Rice might not be in our culture because of, airstrikes and continuous bombings or like global warming and all these earthquakes.
So what's next for you? Any upcoming projects or events planned in Thailand?
We are looking into expanding our wine bar as a business. I've always been a business oriented person. We want to talk more about running a business in Thailand, and then with the backbone of social initiative aspects, and then we want to show people that. About building that solidarity between Thai and Myanmar friendship, and not just through like political aspects, but also through business aspects as entrepreneurs, and how we can approach this and how are we able to benefit and profit from each other in more self-sustainable way. We are expanding in that route soon. There's going to be a completely new menu change at our restaurant, and right now we are categorized as a tapas, but we want to explore more into Lana culture, and then what does Lana culture means to migration and Burmese diaspora. So our food, just in general, we want to make sure that people talk about it and make them question when they eat.
Are you hoping to expand Bamama beyond Thailand?
That would be great. Yes, absolutely. Bamama is a food initiative. So I at first we weren't really sure how the brand is morphing into, but now because we are clear about the path. So and then we drank is specifically very business oriented, where we specifically hire Burmese migrant workers who are specifically affected by conscription laws. And then Bamama is more food initiative where I do mostly fundraising, gala dinners, and stuff like that. And I don't know if we're considered as a nonprofit because that's like, yeah, it makes me feel uncomfortable saying that regarding legality, but it's definitely a food initiative platform. And I would like to give back to my community through Bamama.
As we wrap up, is there any message you would like to share with the people back home in Myanmar?
We are trying our best, and we have not forgotten, and we're here. And the people who are, continuing the fight, they are still doing the best that they can as part of the diaspora community. And I think for the community back home who are a little bit out of touch with the whole situation, we are thinking about everyone.
Thank you for your time today, Trish.
Thank you so much.